You know, this past weekend, they had what is jokingly referred to as the nerd prom. It's really, though, it's pretty accurate because, you know, you have a bunch of nerds and then you have a bunch of movie stars and important people who all gathered together for this annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. As the Washington Post, I think, reported this weekend, they said there were actually a few White House correspondents in attendance as well. Yeah. Joining us now is Patrick Gavin, former political reporter, and he's a documentary filmmaker who's actually done a documentary about the nerd prom. Hello, Patrick. How are you?
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna make a confession. I have been to the nerd prom on a number of occasions. The companion dinner in town is the Radio TV Correspondents' Dinner, which I have actually hosted twice. So I'm guilty as charged. I've been there, but I think I'm sort of coming to the conclusion that I think you've come to, that somewhere along the way, this idea of getting together and celebrating journalism and coming up with a scholarship has lost its way.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not accomplishing what it's supposed to at this point, or at least it's not about what it's supposed to be about. I mean, you take a look at, I think as most people know, at least in the D.C. area, it's not just a dinner now. It's about 24 parties that stretch out for just about 5 days. And you go around those parties, and really, there's really not any focus on the actual and very important work of White House correspondents. So it's certainly drifted away from its roots, and I guess the question is, is there any chance of that ever returning to its roots?
Right.
And it's just hard. It's just hard to see that happening. I mean, this year they added even more parties. I was watching CNN during the dinner, and the only part that they paid attention to were the jokes. They didn't pay attention to the scholarship program. They didn't pay attention to the discussion about access. So I have a hard time believing it's going to get back to its roots, but I think that, but I think it should.
Where did it get off the mark? The way I look at it, it started around the time of Iran-Contra when everybody started vying to have Fawn Hall as their guest.
Right. That's certainly where a lot of folks peg it. That's sort of when the star power came in. I kind of think that it's just, as soon as C-SPAN opened up its cameras, that kind of gave the event greater exposure, which sort of led then to more celebrities, which then led to a red carpet. And then all that happened. It's really been the past 10 years that big business has kind of gotten into it with, all these parties are sponsored, and it's kind of a Fortune 500 of companies kind of very eager to put their stamp on this week. So it's really been the past 20 years that I think things have really escalated.
As someone who's relatively new to Washington, D.C., I got to reveal to everyone who lives here and talks about this event that this is Exhibit A as to why people outside the Beltway hate Washington, D.C., especially the melding between politics and Hollywood and journalists. Listen to this moment, Patrick Gavin, on the red carpet that you mentioned. The fact that there is a red carpet kind of is annoying. Here, listen to this. This is Wolf Blitzer.
Really outdone yourself with your guest this year.
Well, it doesn't get any better than Jane Fonda. Can you believe that I'm here with Jane Fonda and Marie Harf, acting spokeswoman for the U.S. State Department? How cool is that?
Okay, so Marie Harf is the spokesperson for the State Department. Her job is to,
acting.
Is to spin, I think, to the journalists. And Wolf Blitzer is a journalist. And then Marie Harf says this.
Is anyone that you're looking forward to seeing?
Well, first I was looking forward to meeting Jane Fonda, so that was really a dream come true.
Selfies in the car.
Right, we've already done selfies in the car.
They did selfies in the car, the three of them. How can anyone take journalists seriously when they're behaving this way and gushing over Hollywood stars and the spokesperson for the State Department, who, frankly, she deserves a pretty tough interview from Wolf Blitzer. Do we think that he's going to give her one?
No, it's a very valid point, and I sort of had the same reaction when I saw that. I think that, if you're somebody sort of in the country, especially if you're somebody for whom the economy's not working out for you well, I think you look at what's going on this evening on the red carpet on C-SPAN, and it must make you very, very unoptimistic, very pessimistic about the idea that these are the people that are going to sort of help make your world a better place, that are going to kind of represent you and have your interests in mind. Because, you look at the red carpet that night, and it looks like Washington's doing great, and by a lot of measures it is. But the fact of the matter is that, people are not supposed to come here to sort of, better themselves. They're supposed to come here to better the people
Right.
back home in their districts. And so, yes, there's a huge disconnect between, I think, what people see on TV and what's actually taking place around the country.
I noticed that Tom Brokaw and others have said, look, this is something that I don't want to be a part of anymore. I mean, when you have big names like Brokaw, when we have people who like you who are pointing out, this thing is sort of unseemly, it's lost its way. Do you think that there is a chance that they might actually pull back and try to get back to the original intent of the dinner?
I mean, a little bit. I think that, a lot of people, I didn't go to the dinner this year, but a lot of people said that this year actually more people in the audience paid attention to the scholarship program that they had remembered in many years. So that's a positive sign. There are also a lot less celebrities this year. I don't know if that's for any reason other than the fact that it's the 7th year of Obama's presidency. But I think that you're right. It is becoming, I think the more that people shine a light on, the hypocrisies of this weekend or the things that don't quite serve the people well, I think the more it's going to become less cool, I think, to kind of gush over this weekend and to kind of go crazy for it. And so I do think that you'll probably see a lot of the more rough edges getting smoothed out and, hopefully people kind of thinking twice about just what this week's about.
You referred to it in your article. I believe it was in the Washington Post. Is that it? I'm so sorry. Or National Journal. You said the Nerd Prom is a mess, is the way you put it. Is there a disconnect there, Patrick, Gavin, from the people in that room not understanding how this all looks to the American people?
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, what's been so funny since my documentary came out is that there's this whole thread of people in D.C. who admit, they're like, yes, this is our biggest event every year, and yes, it doesn't reflect or yes, it doesn't reflect well on us, but who cares? It's just a dinner. Get over it. You're making too much of it. And that, to me, is just incredibly, incredibly cynical. The fact that, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Both reporters and politicians alike in Washington have a 10% approval rating. And so for us to say that our biggest event every year is kind of gaudy and gross, but then in the same breath say we shouldn't do anything about it. I mean, there's no way you're going to get that 10% approval rating up unless you start somewhere, and that seems like a perfectly great place to start.
So your suggestions are?
Well, I mean, on the micro level, for the actual, dinner, I think you could get rid of the red carpet, which, to be honest, I actually think they will do at some point. I think that all the parties around the week that use kind of the party as their hook should contribute more to the scholarship program. So you can make tweaks like that, but the real problem that I have, I mean, I don't really have a problem with the dinner. I don't really have a problem with corporate sponsorships. My problem is this event's ranking on our sort of social totem pole every year. It's the fact that it is our Super Bowl. I think if this were number 9 and the first 8 events that were sort of highlights every year had something to do with what we're here for. Let's say it was a climate change rally or a Tea Party event or the passage of meaning legislation. If those were the things that people in this town got really excited for, I would have no problem with this dinner being the 9th. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a fun time. It's just the fact that it's our Super Bowl that I think reflects really poorly on us.
All right. Well, Patrick, Gavin, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.